The man pushed the woman to the table. The woman resists with all her might and says that she cannot give herself over to sin in such a place. The girl prays to her husband to let her go and not force her to fall into sin. The lover replies that such words are more appropriate for him than for her. He asks if she will wear this black dress to the wedding. The man wonders if the white-haired woman is mourning her first husband, who was killed in action. Or maybe she is mourning her second husband, who died of an illness. He blindfolds the woman with a black ribbon and asks her if she is preparing to mourn again, as she thinks he is her third husband, who will suffer the fate of her previous life partners. A man lays his beloved on the altar with his arms spread wide and his body pressed against the table. He asks her to answer his questions. The girl stood helplessly in front of her lover. She said that she was asking for forgiveness for herself and prayed that her new husband would not die like the previous ones. The man said that this was very kind of her. He hugs his beloved tightly and holds her close, saying that he is ready to die for her, even knowing about the fate of the previous men to whom the woman was married. The girl thought about the man who was hugging her. He was a war hero, the illegitimate son of one of the most powerful emperors. He was feared and called no safer than a natural disaster. He was always cold as ice, but sometimes he became a very vulnerable person who was full of tender feelings and affection. Often his choice leaned towards irresistible love. The girl clung to the boy in fear. He hugged her and promised her that he would be on her side and protect her. She asks if she has to marry a stranger. A blonde girl stands in the middle of a richly decorated hall. A young man approaches her. He says that he is sorry because he had the honor of meeting her and falling in love later than the Duke. The Duke looked at his reflection and thought that he would not let his beloved go, but would try his best to make the girl happy, no matter how much she resisted. The man gently kissed the girl and said that even if she begged him to let her go, he would not let her go, and would do everything in his power to make her forget about running away. People gathered in the church hall. The women whispered to each other that the girl was a dependent, and that all her previous husbands were deep underground, and no one else would dare to make her his wife. Her father approached the widow. He told her that she had to prepare for a new wedding. Because it was time for her to leave her family. This time, her groom would be a duke. The girl asked what would happen if she refused the wedding. Her father replied that she did not have that right, because then her Barrett and sisters would live on the streets and would end up like her sister when she was young. The old man bent down low to his daughter. He whispered to her that it was very hard to live without a mother's care and affection. That's why her little brothers and sisters need someone they can rely on in times of need. The father left his daughter. She stood in the middle of the hall and thought about what he had said about her responsibility, and that she should become pregnant with the next man and give birth to him in order to be provided for. Everyone said of the Duke that he had started a war in which he conquered 4 kingdoms. So, he is a cold-blooded tyrant who was born of a forbidden bond between a man and a monster. Everyone was interested in whether he would show up to his own wedding with his face exposed, or whether he would cover it with the visor of his combat helmet. But the most important thing was whether he would be able to take care of his bride. The girl and the nanny her father sent her talked about marriage being a very responsible thing. They were interested in how the Duke, who would soon become her husband, would cope with the responsibilities of married life. At this time, the carriage was on its way to the Duke's mansion. It was quite far away, in a place where there were few people, and so the coachman and the people accompanying him were worried about monsters attacking in these wild places. A dark entity attacked the entourage. The knights drew their swords and took up a circular defense around the crew. A huge werewolf looked through the window of the carriage. The monster's eyes blazed with rage. The nurse said that if she had to die, she would die with the girl. She said something about the young lady's husband. The blade of a sharp sword came out of the monster's chest. The girl looked at this scene with wide-open eyes in fear. Behind the monster, she saw a young man looking at her from behind the werewolf. She immediately thought that the stranger was her new husband. The girl got out of the carriage. She turned to her rescuer and asked if he was a duke. After all, she had never seen him before and did not know her future husband. The stranger stood silently. The young lady stood in front of the man. He was still silent. She thought that he could be an ordinary knight or the commander of a battalion of guards. She was amazed that he had defeated the monster on his own and without help. A guard ran up to them. He said that another monster had been spotted nearby. The man said that there was still a long way to go, so they should prepare for new encounters with monsters of all kinds. The stranger thought about it and said that he was ready to accompany the carriage further. The girl was worried that it was dangerous, because it would take a whole squad of soldiers to deal with the monster. A servant ran out of the carriage and ran up to my lady. She began to spin around the aristocrat and ask if she was all right, because upon arrival at the groom's castle, the girl had to look perfect. The man went to his horse. He called his servant and ordered him to accompany the procession to the castle. The Duke himself had promised to deal with the monster that had been terrorizing the area, and now it had attacked his wife's entourage. The young maid blindfolded the young lady. She was surprised by the Duke's order. She had hoped for a different reception, but to be greeted so strangely and so unwelcomingly was not something she had expected. The girl was waiting for her fiancé. She was thinking about what terrible things could happen if she inadvertently saw her future husband's face. Suddenly, she heard the sound of approaching footsteps from the darkness. The Duke approached very quietly. He said that his wife was very curious and could not sit still. She touched his chest with her hands, timidly and carefully. The man asked if she was expecting him. The Duke laid the girl on the bed. He held her hands behind her head and pressed them with his minty palm. The young lady asked for permission to remove the blindfold. The man replied that he could not allow her to do so. Lily said she had been waiting for him for a long time. He let go of her hands. She sat down on the bed and took the young man's hand on her chin. He leaned over her and asked her if she had really been waiting to see him. Her hand felt his face. The girl concluded that the Duke was very handsome and that his skin was very soft and delicate, which was not at all appropriate for a man who spent so much time on the battlefield. The Duke took her hand. He said that he was ready to thank and reward the young lady for her attempt to arouse him and the initiative she had taken. The girl was surprised and replied that this was not necessary. The man stood over her. He unbuttoned his shirt and put her leg on his knee. The Duke said that he was ready to do it and that she was also willing to do it. The girl woke up in bed alone. She was thinking about what had happened last night. At some point, she forgot about being blindfolded. For the first time in a long time, she felt good sleeping with a man, and she did not feel bored. The young lady thought how good it felt, but the man did not even enter her. Her thoughts were sinful and related to lewdness. People said that her new husband was a real monster, but she was sure of the opposite. The girl left her room. She was wondering if she could leave her room. A maid came across her. The maid dropped the tray of food she was carrying to her mistress. The maid began to apologize as she had agreed to serve my lady herself, as all the other servants were too far away. The girl was worried that the lady might have been hurt by her carelessness. The young aristocrat leaned over to the maid. She was missing one of her legs. Instead of a limb, there was an iron prosthesis that looked like a crutch. The lady got up and looked at the maid. She asked if the girl had been injured by the pieces of crockery. The maid reminded Lily of her younger sisters. They behaved the same way when they did something wrong. My lady recalled how she had lain in bed for days the first time she had visited her second husband's estate. No one wanted to bring her clothes. The servants refused to obey her because they thought she was a commoner. An aristocrat was walking with a maid in the garden that the maid had just shown her. She thanked the girl for showing her this beautiful place. Buttercup, the maid's name, was surprised. The young lady asked what kind of person the Duke was. The maid replied that the Duke was a very nice person. Pointing to her prosthesis, Buttercup said that the aristocrat gives work and shelter to people of all kinds. He can be strict sometimes, but he is actually very kind. He also left the girl alone in the room for a reason, because he went to get a priest because his new wife had a fever. The Duke and the priest, who acted as a doctor, stood over the bed in which the aristocrat's wife was lying. The doctor explained that she was not ill. It was a shock for her to meet the monster. The Duke took hold of his chin. He was worried about his wife's illness, which could have been caused by the monster that attacked him. After all, last night he had come to the tired girl and demanded her love. The priest said that Lily would be fine, because he had much more experience than his bald elderly colleagues, and no one had ever died because of a fever. The girl opened her eyes. She asked that the incident not be reported to her father, otherwise he would punish her younger siblings. At this point, she called the Duke Tristan. He was uncomfortable with this. The Duke promised that he would not harm my lady or her family in any way. He then sent the doctor away, telling him that he would take care of his wife and spend the whole night with her. The young man stayed with the aristocrat. The priest asked when the man was going to show the girl his true face. He replied that such a young person was not yet ready for this. The man went to the mirror. There he saw his true reflection. A creature looking like a strong man with a snake's tail and 2 wings behind him was looking at him from the mirror. The young lady was sitting at the table with her maid. The maid was apologizing to the aristocrat who had dared to take her to the greenhouse with flowers. Lily asked, "Where was her previous maid?" The maid replied that the woman had been expelled on the day of my lady's arrival at the Duke's castle. A priest came to see Lily. They sat at the table and talked about the Duke and his cruelty. The young lady could not believe it. The priest said he was joking. Lily was not happy with such jokes. She said that it was not proper for a doctor to joke like that. The man asked me to consider him his master's chaplain, following him from battle to battle. The Duke's wife is shocked by the priest's words and says that this is his voluntary choice and that he should not complain about it. She asked me to tell her more about the Duke. After spending the night together, she still hadn't seen her husband's face. The priest replied that his master was insecure and had complexes and a number of reasons for hiding his appearance. He is afraid to impress and frighten my lady. The chaplain jumps up from his seat and promises to help the Duke's young wife see her husband's true face, because this cannot go on for so long. The servants look at the Duke's wife. She is walking in the garden. The maid thinks that everyone will be amazed by the beauty of the new owner of the castle. Lily looks at the maids, who are communicating with sign language. She also wants to communicate with someone. She decides that Buttercup will teach her sign language. The girl tries on her new clothes. She never thought that she would wear such gorgeous clothes, worthy of being worn by emperors. The servant tells the story of Lord Isles, who has been granted the official status of a nobleman. He has opened 3 diamond mines and is now an influential and worthy man. The girl thinks that if she had refused this marriage, her father would never have had any connections with the imperial court. The priest takes Lily to a playground where knights train. Lily wonders if she is too dressed up for such a place. They hear the sound of a gunshot. A red-haired man addresses the reverend. He asks how he had the courage to bring a woman to such a place, and the wife of a duke. The man leans over to the woman and reassures her, saying that the shot is a practice shot. He asks how the young woman is feeling. The girl asked if she could find out the man's name. The man introduced himself as Johannes Talon and kissed the girl's hand in a bow. The girl recognizes the man as the knight who accompanied her to the castle after the werewolf attack. Talon says Lily is really as beautiful as people say she is. He said that he would not be surprised if one day the Duke started a war because of his wife's beauty. They see a man with a rifle. The girl talks about the potential of firearms and gunpowder. She goes on to say that when short-barreled weapons become available, absolutely everyone will be able to defend themselves. The chaplain compares Lily's beauty and intelligence and praises the girl. The Duke approaches the priest from behind. He says that the girl has chosen a bad and unworthy husband. The Duke asks Lily what she is doing in such a place. She replies that she didn't want to interfere with her training, she just wanted to see her husband. The chaplain said he took responsibility for her visit because it was his initiative. He is trying to resolve the situation. The girl protests. She says that a duchess has the right to order and command her subjects when she misses her husband and wants to meet him. The man thinks that trust between a man and a woman who has not seen the face of their lover is impossible. Lily asks if the man agrees. A few minutes earlier, the Duke had instructed 2 of his aides. He said that they should remember the knights and their families who had been wounded on the battlefield. The servants listened attentively to their master. Sir Talon addresses Lily. He asks her to come to the castle. The Duke himself will soon visit her there. The girl agrees to the offer. The girl leaves the group of men. Finally, she said that she would no longer try to find a meeting with her husband because she was tired of chasing him. Talon offers to walk her home because it is not safe to go alone. Lily climbs the stairs. She thinks that the Duke is angry with her because she disobeyed his orders. She thinks that this cannot go on forever, and why the man does not want to show his face. The girl thinks that the situation is similar to what happened in her first and second marriages. In both cases, she felt lonely. It is possible that this will happen again now. The Duke gently embraced his wife. He said that he could not just leave her. He put his hands over her eyes again. The Duke stood behind the woman and covered her eyes. She asked if he would hide his face from her again. He confirmed that he would do so until he earned her trust. The man promised to spend the whole night with her. The lovers embraced. The girl said that the Duke was a mystery to her. The man asked her to call him Vlad. Vlad turned to the woman and suggested that they forget about their titles and call each other by their first names. Lily agreed to the proposal. The man took the girl in his arms. He carried her to a room, saying that this room was much more modestly dressed than her chambers. It was the Duke's study, and no one could disturb the lovers here. Vlad asked the girl why she was defending Ivan. The girl replied that she was not trying to protect the chaplain but simply wanted to meet the Duke. The man said he knew about the priest's plan to show the Duke's face. Lily opened her eyes. There was a man standing in front of her. She could not believe her eyes. He asked her who she had expected to see here. It was he who was standing in front of her. The girl was sitting at a table. A maid was with her. Lily asked if she should eat everything from the richly laid table. The servant confirmed the girl's guess because it was the Duke's order. The servant poured Lily the tea her father had sent her. The drink was supposed to calm the girl down, but she remembered that her father used to send her this tea all the time, and the nanny used to make her drink it all. It was disgusting. The girl was sitting in bed. A doctor was standing next to her. Lily asked why she was feeling so unwell. The doctor said that he could not find the cause of the girl's ill health. He was powerless to do anything about it. Sir Talon approached the table where the girl was sitting. He said that the Duke himself was looking for tea for his wife and ordered him to personally check the food for poison. The maid confirmed the knight's words. Sir Talon said that Lily's family had come to visit. The girl was happy. But then she asked, "What does Vlad do with uninvited, unplanned guests?" The man replied that Vlad did not like guests at all. The bearded man refused to let Lily's family in. Sir Talon said that the Duchess wanted to greet the family in person. The bearded man objected. There was no order from the Duke, so the gates would not be opened. The guard thought that Lily was not a duchess, but a commoner who had managed to go from being an ordinary girl to the wife of a duke. And now she probably wants to drag the whole family here. Sir Talon argued with the bearded guard. The bearded man said. He didn't care whether she was a real duchess or a commoner born under the name of Ailsa. He would not open the gate without the Duke's order. The girl approached the guard and greeted him. She called him Count Valks. He apologized, but he would rather be hated for his principles than for his spinelessness and lack of a stand. The Count bowed in front of the girl. Lily said she had come here not to let her family in, but to send them back. She respected the Duke's rules of life very much and tried to keep to them. Lily hugged her brother, exchanged greetings, and asked, "Where is the other one of her brothers?" The boy answered. He said that he had been very busy lately. However, he took Tristan with him instead. Tristan kissed the Duchess's hand. He said it was a great honor for him to meet the Duchess of Winter. The man praised the girl's dress and concluded that the Duke treats his wife very well. Lily's brother was worried. He was afraid of this place. He had seen a severed human head hanging from a rope above the gate leading into the city. Now he was afraid of Sir Talon, who looked like a murderer. Tristan offered to continue the conversation in the palace. Lily refused. She asked the guests to return when they received the Duke's permission to visit the girl. Until then, the way was closed. The Duke was sitting on a bench with a woman dressed as a nun or a clergywoman. She asked him why he was alone and where his servants were. He replied that all his knights were chasing monsters because there were few warriors. The woman laughs at Vlad's words that all his male subjects are trying to court his wife. The woman is amazed that the Duke has spent most of his life on the battlefield, and now he is being jealous. A servant interrupted the conversation with the nun. He said that they had received a request for permission to enter the palace grounds. The Duke ordered the uninvited guests to leave before the princess was hurt. The servant warned him that they were not the imperial family, but the brothers of the Duke's wife. The man thought about it. He decided that he would do as his wife wished. The girl was walking with Tristan in the garden. They were reminiscing about their younger years. The man reminded her how he had once courted Lily. She replied that he could still make her laugh. Tristan asks if he is not better looking than Lily's husband. She replies that her husband is ordinary, although she hasn't been able to see his face yet. But still, in her opinion, beauty is not the most important thing in a person. The girl decided to finally see her husband's face. To do so, she is ready to cheat. She hid a candle under the bed so that when the Duke fell asleep, she could look at him. She decided to be careful. The Duke came into the room. Lily asked him to help her tie her bandage. The man reminded her that he was Vlad and asked her to call him that in future. Vlad took his wife's hand. They talked about the dangers of expeditions and whether the Duke had been injured. The girl was a little scared and felt strange. The Duke found out that the girl was forced to marry him because it was necessary for her relatives. Vlad was disappointed and offended. He said goodnight to his wife and left Lily's room. The maids were talking about the Duke's new wife. They were delighted with this girl and impressed by her ability to get on well with people. Vlad talks to the chaplain. He offers to tell Lily the truth and show her the true nature of the Duke. Vlad is furious at the suggestion. He threatens the priest that he will cut off his head and hang it. The girl found Vlad and the chaplain together. She thought they were lovers. The men protested. Lily said she respected everyone's preferences and was going to leave them both alone. The girl was standing in front of Vlad. She began to guess that he was her husband. They were talking, interspersing words with gestures. The Duke was angry with the chaplain. Lily recognized her husband in the commander's voice. There was an awkward silence between Vlad and Lily. The girl asked her husband to take her to the palace. The Duke believed that his wife would not believe that he was her husband because he was concerned about his appearance. The girl thought that she and Vlad needed to have a serious talk. She was very cold and the Duke put his coat on her. On the way, they met a little snowman. Lily remembered her childhood. Vlad was smiling and she realized that he had made the snowman. She warned him not to tell the Duke about it. The man picked up the rod, and Lily realized that this would be a new way for them both to communicate. She wrote down a phrase that she promised to use sign language the next time they met. The Duke led Lily up the stairs to her room. They held hands, and this surprised the servants, who were not used to such behavior from their master. The girl thought that the man was just warming her hand. The servant was doing the Duke's wife's hair. They talked about the Duke and his hidden sides. Buttercup said that the atmosphere in the palace had become more cozy since Lily's arrival. The girl thanked him for his kind words. A servant told her about a man with a ponytail who asked the servants about different aspects of their lives in the castle. Lily thought that the man was her brother. She wondered if he had done anything wrong. Later, she realized that the stranger was Tristan. She decided to meet him and found him at the port. They were unloading goods from the capital. The man guaranteed that everything would be in order. Lily and Tristan decided to talk. The girl noticed that the man was a bit agitated and worried about something. The friend replied that he was worried about the girl. Lily said that they had a more important topic to talk about. The girl asked what Tristan was doing in the maid's room. She reminded the guest that he had no right to interfere with the maid's affairs and disturb their peace and personal territory. The man stood up from the table and said that Lily was completely unaware of the true state of affairs in the house and who her husband really was. Tristan said that the Duke had simply added her to his collection. The girl did not understand. A few minutes earlier, the Duke returns home. He is met by a servant who tells him that my lady is talking to her friend. The Duke is nervous and angry. Tristan tells Lily that the Duke has taken her for his collection of abnormal people. After all, everyone who lives in this palace is disabled or has some kind of defect. The girl is not surprised because she has known this for a long time, and she didn't care. Lily tells her friend that she didn't expect him to. She thought that he wouldn't think she was strange or wrong, let alone cursed and unlucky. The man apologizes. Tristan says that it's not him who should be blamed but the Duke. The girl replies that whether her husband is a monster or a demon, she doesn't care, because he treats her better than her old friend or even her own father. Lily insists that Tristan apologize to the Duke. The man stands in front of her and says that she really enjoyed being a duchess because she says such things. Finally, he warns her not to be abandoned. Tristan asks if Lily's husband knows about her previous marriages and that he was the one who calmed her down each time. The Duke stands behind the annoying guest. Vlad grabs his wife's friend by the arm. The Duke explains that such treatment of a woman is unacceptable, even if she were an aristocrat or a commoner. Such behavior is unworthy of a man. Tristan kneels before the Duke. He asks if the man is afraid of the monster. Vlad asks his wife how she is feeling. A guard led by Sir Talon enters the room. The Duke orders Tristan to be taken to prison. The man is accused of assaulting the Duchess and forcing the maidservants into prostitution. Lily apologizes to Vlad. She says that she could not think anything bad about her old friend. The man asks her to spend the day with Buttercup, the maid. Vlad turned around and left the room. As he walked, he asked the girl not to worry and not to get nervous again. Today, she should rest in warmth and comfort. Lily doesn't want to leave his company. Sir Talon stands by the door leading to Lily's room. A maid comes out. She says that the Duchess has not eaten anything again. The man is worried that she will faint from hunger. Sir Talon offers Lily a walk down the corridor. She agrees. During the walk, they talk about Vlad. The girl tells him that he has been trying to avoid her company for several days. She does not know what to do. Lily talks about feeling as if a wall had formed between her and Vlad. Although it is no longer necessary to cover her eyes with a blindfold, there has been no intimacy between them for a long time, although they were sometimes alone. Talon replied that he could not give any advice, because the Duke had always been a mystery to everyone around him. But Vlad made an exception for Tristan, because the Duke himself punished criminals for offering sex to women. Lily went to the Duke. She asked him to forgive Tristan and use him to demand a ransom from the Merchants Guild on terms favorable to Vlad. The Duke suspects that his wife wants to save her friend. Vlad blamed himself. In a fit of jealousy, he lied about Tristan's proposals to the servants. Now the Duke considered himself no better a man than his opponent. He was ready to give in to his wife's request. Vlad decided to let the intruder go. Lily asked the Duke to tell her everything about himself because she knew him so little. He promised to tell her absolutely everything if his wife wanted him to. Vlad closes the door to the room. He and Lily are left alone. The Duke says that this is the first time the girl has seen this room. She had her eyes closed before. Tristan is visited in prison by Lily's brother. He says that the Duke is better than all of her sister's previous husbands, and so it is no wonder that she fell in love with him. He is also handsome. The Duke interrupts a conversation between his wife's brother and a criminal. He orders the guards to take the boy out of the dungeon. Vlad wants to talk to Tristan. The man tells the Duke that he is surprised at how quickly he was able to make Lily fall in love with him. However, if they wait, they will see who she will trust more. Tristan says that Lily chose him because his friend became an island of comfort for her, at a time when everyone was disappointed in the girl and rejected her, leaving her alone in trouble. The Duke said that he would now protect Lily, and Tristan, although he had achieved a place at the top of the trade guild, would remain out of her sight because she had never felt anything for him before. Tristan says that Vlad is no better than the girl's father. The Duke puts his sword to the prisoner's throat. Now it's Tristan's turn to listen. Vlad warns him that he is only alive because of Lily. The Duke speaks of his deep feelings for his wife. He is ready to start a real war to get Lily back everything that is rightfully hers, and he is ready to become her trophy. The girl read the Duke's personal notes. She was amazed at the wealth of his possessions and the order in his subordinate lands. Lily was amazed at the effort that such an organization required. She was about to leave when a book caught her eye. Lily looked through a few pages. There were entries in the book about various creatures, monsters, and monsters. Dandelion ran into the room. He broke free from Sir Talon's grasp. His brother said that Tristan had told him everything about the reasons for his sister's previous marriages. The boy apologized to his sister. Lily quickly entered the prison room. The Duke was standing in front of Tristan. He listened to his wife and asked her if she loved the prisoner, since she was asking for mercy and forgiveness. Vlad was angry with Lily because she had asked him to marry another man. The Duke was on his way out of prison. The girl asked him to forgive her not because of Tristan, but for her and her love for her husband. Lily said she couldn't bear to just stand by and not be able to intervene. She also said that she felt guilty for letting her family and Tristan into the palace and breaking the ban. The girl said she felt an insurmountable emptiness between them. She didn't want to live a life where she was just a doll anymore. Ready to cry, Lily wanted to leave. The Duke hugged his wife. Vlad hugged Lily. The girl thought that the man was afraid to hurt her with his own hands. The Duke ordered Sir Talon to deal with the intruder as follows. As my lady wishes. A man sits on the bed with Lily and tells her that he is very ugly on the face. This was the reason he had been hiding his face for so long. His wife reassured him and said that he was wrong. The Duke decided to tell the truth. He told them about the rumors that he was a bloody monster, the child of a man and a monster. That is why he is feared and secretly despised. His mother was a monster. She had the body of a woman, but instead of legs, she had a snake's tail. She was raped by a perverted emperor who was not satisfied with normal human women. That's how he was born. Vlad talks about his childhood, when he never heard a kind word from anyone. They tried to kill him a huge number of times. Even his own mother hated him, because he was a monster. The Duke said that since then, the battlefield has been a much calmer and more reliable place for him. At least there, everyone was equal in the face of death. Lily talks to Vlad. He admits that he has never seen such a kind and bright person as his wife. He is ready to fulfill any of her wishes. The girl says that she has one secret wish. The wife, accompanied by Sir Talon, walks down the street. They are dressed like ordinary people. Talon says that he does not often go out into the city for a walk. The last time he was there was when he was choosing seals for a lady. The Duke personally chose the seals as a gift for his beloved. Not far away, they saw a group of children. Lily recalled how her childhood was spent under the supervision of her strict and conservative father, who forbade her to do many things. She was so absorbed in her thoughts that she didn't notice where Sir Talon had gone. She went to look for him, and it took her a long time. The girl found herself in an unfamiliar quarter of the city. She thought that she should go back. The Duke found his wife. They were walking down the street. Lily said that she wanted to take a secret walk through the city streets. They decided to seize the moment and take a walk together and spend time together. The couple decided not to return to the castle. They spent the night in one of the city's guest houses. It was very cold. Lily put her arms around her husband and snuggled up to him. He was surprised. She said it was warmer that way. The Duke organized a meeting. One of the advisors, Hans Stofflo, said that their city of Cadiz could no longer live in isolation from the rest of the world, and it was no longer possible to turn away an imperial delegation interested in the princess's life. Vlad told his associates that for some reason Tristan was not afraid to try to kidnap the castle maids and turn them into prostitutes. The counselor confirmed that the stranger had tried to sell the maids to some pervert. The Duke decided that he should listen to his wife's opinion in the matter of openness. Lily was sitting on the sofa. Sir Talon stood behind her. Tristan was kneeling in front of the Duchess. The girl said that her husband was no longer her friend because he tried to make her maids sex slaves. The former friend tried to justify himself because someone had to do the dark deeds in the guild. He said that he simply had no choice, because he had spent his entire life as a victim and helped others, forgetting about himself. Lily stops the man. She lets him go alive but doesn't want to see him again. She also reminded Tristan not to forget to thank the head of the trade guild for paying the ransom for his head. The girl said she would no longer have anything to do with her childhood friend and refused to communicate with him. He tried to threaten that Dandelion would not be able to serve the guild properly. Lily sat on the sofa with the Duke. They were talking about business. She reminded him that they had to check and close the smuggling routes. Vlad reassured his wife and asked her to rest. The Duke asked if it was true that Lily's mother had died after giving birth. The girl said that her mother had cared for her, and so she devoted all her energy to caring for her. And every day her health was getting worse and worse. Vlad reassured his wife. He said that when a person dies of an illness, it is not murder. It's a misfortune for their family and friends, and it can happen to anyone in their lifetime. The Duke asked his wife not to pretend that everything was fine around him. They should be as honest as possible with each other. Lily said she had a secret to tell. Vlad was not the third but the fourth husband. The girl remembered her childhood. She and her father were traveling in a carriage. They were on their way to a meeting with the head of the guild. Her father said that today was a very important day, and Lily had no right to spoil it. The head of the guild hugged my father. He returned the greeting, saying that there was no need for formalities. The head asked him to speed up the marriage with Mr. Iles's daughter and to make sure she moved in as soon as possible. The father was not satisfied with what the salesman said. He said that Lily hadn't even had her period yet. The head was outraged. He said that he had never thought of such a thing. The girl's father calmed down. The head added that he would grant the Ailes family trading privileges and sign a document with guarantees. The father quickly agreed, praising his new partner's negotiating skills. Lily said that her father had taught her how to please her fiancé. She decided to run away with her mother, but the family had large debts, and without proper treatment, her mother died. Lily blamed herself. The Duke reassured his wife. He said that it was now very difficult for him to realize how he had forced her to accept marriage to him. Vlad would never have done this if he had known the girl's tragic story and her ordeal. The girl remembered another scene from her childhood. She was playing with her peers in the forest. The children were talking about a monster that had recently appeared in the area. Lily saw a strange boy looking at her. After their evening conversation, Lily and Vlad took a bath. The Duke had prepared everything romantically, with flower petals in the water. They enjoyed the time they would spend together. The whole day was ahead of them. The Duke was talking to his advisor in the dungeon. They discussed the punishment Tristan had received. Even though Lily felt sorry for her friend, Vlad decided to punish the man for an act that could have undermined order. Then the men talked about the trade guild. The Duke did not want it to break up. Instead, he would make the head of the guild, Ailsa, lie at his feet and beg Lily's forgiveness and apology. The married couple Lily and Vlada were traveling in a carriage through the forest. The Duke kept their arrival place a secret. The girl was worried about her younger brother, who would take the brunt of the fighting. She was afraid to return. Lily talks about her childhood. Vlad thinks about the terrible atmosphere of his beloved's childhood. He promises to find a home for Dandelion to keep him safe. When the carriage stopped, the Duke insisted on closing his wife's eyes. He took her to a glass greenhouse on top of a mountain. He built this greenhouse for his wife to walk in on days like this. Lily was delighted. She remembered how much her late mother loved flowers. She noted that some flowers indicate the presence of certain minerals in the area where they grow. This was the flower she saw. The Duke became interested. He was delighted with Lily's intelligence and erudition. The girl said that the lands of Arcadia were really very rich and had everything they needed. Vlad said that most of the nobles did not think so. The Duke believed that the girl's abilities had not been allowed to develop because she had been married off early and her education had been interrupted. Now she shouldn't spend time choosing the decoration of the hall in the palace, but should be put in charge of the guild. The girl was sitting in the pool. She was thinking about Vlad's offer to put her on the board, but then she thought about sexual pleasure and became frightened and ashamed of such thoughts. The Duke said that he invited her here to rest. He wanted her to rest. The girl felt strange because for some reason she was now afraid to even look at her husband. The Duke's advisor spoke to Lily's brother. The latter could not cope with the paperwork, so the advisor had to deal with the matter himself. He was trying to bake the Duchess's brother. The advisor was thinking more about opening the duchy to the world. Dandelion gave him the idea that someone could influence Vlad in his decision on the borders. Lily entered the room where the Duke's advisor and chaplain were sitting. They both explained the Duchess's plan of action. The girl was the only one who could influence the Duke's decision. She was the only one who could save Cadiz. The advisor said that the duchy is self-sufficient in mineral resources, but in such conditions, it is very difficult to develop trade and agriculture. A meeting of advisors chaired by the Duke decided to reorganize part of the security forces into Citadel Guard units. It was also forbidden to leave and enter the territory of the duchy after sunset. Someone in the audience suggested that the agenda should be continued. The Duke replied that one more person was about to join the meeting, and then the meeting would continue. Vlad introduced Lily to the board. The girl told the audience. She said that she had conducted a study of flowers and other flora on the territory of the duchy. Someone was skeptical about these words of the Duchess, but she continued. Lily said that there are rich deposits of at least 3 types of metals in the mountain range that runs through the central part of Attico. She then listed all the possible options. Then came the question of opening the borders of Cadiz. The Duke refused his wife's request to reconsider his views on this, arguing that it was for Lily's own safety. The girl insisted on seeing it. After all, with such wealth and resources, it is possible to turn the city and the land around it into something more than just an imperial capital, the Duke said. He said that the primary concern was the safety of the city's residents and the Duchess herself, and opening the borders could lead to a lot of thieves and robbers coming to the peaceful territories of Cadiz. Lily insisted that only merchants with permits should be allowed to cross the border, and in case of violation of the law, the criminal code of Cadiz would be applied. The government agreed on the condition that a system be developed to protect local residents from hazards. The council was surprised by the ruler's concessions, as for many years he had been unapproachable in terms of opening up land. The Duke is left alone with Lily. He says that he will consider creating a security system in more detail after he prepares the army. Before going to the greenhouse with the flowers, he received a message from Attico. The local authorities asked for help. Vlad did not tell his wife about this before the trip so as not to upset her, but now she was angry that he hadn't told her. She thought he did not trust her. Lily was upset that her husband would leave her alone again. She knew that she had to look after her husband's land and manage it while Vlad was away. Lily and Vlad decide to make love on their last night together. The Duke noticed that his wife had a fever. He decided to postpone the pleasure for the sake of his beloved's health. She was grateful to her husband. However, she asked if she was shirking her marital duty. Vlad asked if she had always felt this way about their love. She replied that sometimes she had such thoughts. In the morning, the Duke went to arrange his affairs before the campaign. Lily was walking in the park and wondering if she had offended her lover, and if she looked like a swindler who wanted to bind a man to her as a child. Her younger brother came up behind her. He threw a cloak over his sister's shoulders. Lily asked him how he knew where to find her. He replied that he remembered that when his sister was worried about something, she went to the garden. They talked about how the father would definitely send someone to look after his daughter and make sure she was carrying the Duke's child. The girl said that they had nothing to fear from Vlad. The girl was very worried about the Duke, who went on a hike to places teeming with dangerous monsters. Lily wondered if she could cope without her husband, and most importantly, she would not forgive herself if something happened to him. Lily's father was talking to his son. He was complaining about his daughter, whom he had made a duchess, and she had treated him so meanly. Opposite old Elsa sat his second son, the red-haired Krikos. The young man said that this time he would go as a messenger to the Duke's lands and personally keep everything under control. After all, they had lost an important trade route. The father replied that if he loses his son, the business will suffer great losses. The boy is surprised that his father is worried about him. After all, the redhead will come back right away when he finds out about the plans of the Duke and his wife. The chaplain advises Vlad to go to his wife and say goodbye properly. After all, she is upset because she's going to be alone again. The Duke says that his chaplain often sticks his nose where it doesn't belong. The Duke was thinking about how Lily had once been driven away by her late husband's family because she had failed to please them with an heir. Now she is afraid that it will happen again, even though he doesn't ask her to do so. Vlad ordered the chaplain to wait for him at the main gate at dawn. Ivan asked if His Majesty was going to see his wife. The Duke told the priest to be careful what he said and not to interfere where he was not asked. Lily approached Sir Talon. She wanted to see Vlad, but the knight said that the master had just left for somewhere. The girl was upset because she did not know when she would see her husband again. Regretting that she hadn't been able to say goodbye properly, Lily handed the note to the Duke through the knights who would soon set off to follow their leader. Her heart was very heavy. The Duke returned to his palace. The guard at the gate handed him a handkerchief. It smelled like Lily's scent. The knight was surprised to see Vlad's expression. He thought. The Duke had changed a lot. Vlad thought about the child. He remembered the last words of his late mother before she died. The woman asked him to live alone and not to leave any offspring behind. After all, one monster is enough in this world. Now the Duke felt guilty towards his wife. After all, he could not force her to become a mother to the monster that would surely appear from the union of such a man and his wife. The pangs of conscience tore at Vlad's heart. The man did not dare to enter the house where his wife was. He tried to overcome himself, but when he imagined what would happen to Lily when she saw him, his heart ached even more. He got on his horse and rode away. The girl came to the church. She prayed for her husband because it was the only thing she could do. Lily knew that a long winter was ahead, full of waiting and worries. That's why she would be thinking about Vlad all the time. Several months had passed since the Duke left for a military campaign. One day a messenger arrived at Lily's house. He told the Duchess that her husband had turned into a real monster. Vlad stood on the battlefield. Around him were the corpses of the monsters he had defeated in battle. The Duke was able to cope with the dark side, and now transformed into his inhuman form at will. Despite the constant threat and risk to his life, Vlad never forgot about Lily. He always carried a handkerchief with him, which still retained his wife's scent. It calmed him down and helped him keep going. The Duke came to a military camp. The guard asked how the monsters were doing. Vlad replied that he had killed the last of them so the soldiers could rest for a while until new enemies came. The Duke ordered a messenger to be sent. Vlad wrote a message saying that the place was now clean of monsters and monstrosities and safe. So Lily doesn't have to worry about her husband. She was the only one who was worried. The messenger stood in front of the Duchess. He didn't know how to tell the whole story, because his wife had never seen Vlad as a monster before. The boy could not explain that his master could change the accounting at will. The Duke's advisor entered the room. He said that Vlad had given his wife a small gift. The man opened the box. There was a richly decorated pistol. Everyone was very surprised at the surprise. The advisor explained that this gift meant that the woman had the right to manage the Duke's lands in his absence. The first thing Lily decided to do was to inspect her possessions. She wanted to see how her subjects lived. The girl told her brother and her advisor that she intended to take over the Elsa Trading Guild. She was sure that it would be difficult at first, but she would manage if she had such wise advisors whom she could trust. Lily thought about what she had done. She thought about what would happen next. about the confrontation with her father that was unavoidable when she decided to take over the guild. She wanted to ask Vlad for advice, but then I realized that he already had a lot on his plate, and besides, he had always managed everything himself. She wanted to write him a letter and tell him how much she missed her husband, but she quickly fell asleep. She had a dream where she met Vlad in a greenhouse. He said he was sitting there waiting for her like a dog. Then he asked her to pat him on the head. Then they started making love. The Duke woke up from a strange dream in which he was making love to Lily. His wife's handkerchief was lying next to him. He thought that even in his dream he missed his beloved very much. His peace was broken by a messenger from the headquarters. The Duke opened the letters. One of them was from Lily. He opened it carefully. The letter said that everything was fine in the duchy and with Vlad's wife. He was even a little sad because they were doing well without him. Lily went out into the world. She toured her possessions. The people were surprised by this act of the young duchess. Everyone looked at the girl and whispered to each other. The duchess's brother decided to join her for a while. The girl came very close to the ordinary people. She said that she had come to visit her people and talk to them. She also brought food, which was going to be distributed to everyone present. A stranger in a hood sat down with two men in a tavern. They were talking about the new duchess. They believed that such a girl could not be a lost cause. The stranger asked to hear more. The men noticed blood on the stranger's sleeve. He said that it was the blood of his brother, whom he had taught. One of the men warned him that all the people here were disabled, and therefore it was strictly forbidden to hit anyone. The stranger is Lily's older brother who was sent here by her father. He is amazed at how his sister is dressed. In addition, she has her own secretary and advisor. He decided to arrange a meeting with Lily. The men were about to leave the tavern, but they couldn't find their wallets. The redhead said he would pay for them and himself. The two locals said that the boy was actually a very nice person and they liked him. Red led the men to his younger brother's house. He said that he had received such an apartment simply because he was the duchess's brother. The man tried to incite anger in his new friends. Lily's older brother recalled a scene from the recent past. His father was praising him. He used his elder brother as an example of his determination. The girl said she'd also helped the family by finding the mine. Red did his best to make himself look good to his father. He even pretended to defend his sister, but secretly he hated her, because he was supposed to be the first to find the mineral mine. She was lucky. No one in her family took her seriously at all. She was needed for the family to have influential relatives and their connections. And Lily was supposed to behave with dignity and study luxury and practice calmness. It was considered, along with gold and money, to be a mere subject of a marriage contract, which had no will of its own and automatically became the property of the future husband if he benefited from it. The redhead stood over Tristan. He told him that he was no good to him now that he could not see Lily. The man said that the girl had changed a lot. The duchess's brother assured him not to make excuses. The duchess was about to go to rest, but disturbing thoughts kept her awake. She remembered her younger brother and the bruise on his forehead. Lily was worried about where Dandelion's face had been hit. A servant ran up to the mistress. She said she had some urgent news. The servant said that Lily's younger brother was seriously injured. He was attacked by ordinary residents of Cardis. The attackers were punished and the brother is at rest. The girl quickly ran to her brother. She asked, "Who did this to the boy?" He said it was the locals. He also asked to go back to his father because he felt very lonely here and had no friends. The two men behind bars bowed to the duchess. They are sorry for what they have done. After all, no one likes it when your loved one is beaten. Lily looks at them and realizes that they do not look like the real attackers. The men are very afraid. The duchess's aide put forward a theory that there must have been someone else who organized the attack on the duchess's brother. She recalled an unknown strange man she had seen while walking. The girl appealed to the attackers one last time. They broke down and said that they had been sent by a strange guy with red hair. The guy threatened them with death if they did not give false testimony. After the men told the duchess everything, she forgave them for their actions. The defendant's gratitude was overwhelming. They bowed to the girl and thanked her for her mercy. Lily asked to be taken to the witness. The witness was waiting in the security room. The stunned girl recognized the man waiting to hear the outcome of the case as her brother Crocus. Lily shouted at the redhead because if he wanted to meet her, he would have just asked. Crocus said that his father was very angry because of Lily's antics. He warned his sister not to be overconfident and not to think she was completely safe. The guard ordered the redhead to shut up. Lily scolded her brother. The man leaned over to his sister and asked her where her gratitude and respect for her father, who had arranged her situation and her marriage so well, was. Lily said she didn't want to see him, and even more so, to have anything to do with him. The girl was leaving the cell when Crocus said. She said that she was worthless without the Duke. Lily ordered the guard to arrest her brother for saying something that defamed the Duke's honor and cast a shadow on his position. The guards were leading Crocus to the prison. He was screaming and asking for Lily. The Duchess said that her brother was accused of trespassing and assaulting a public official. The redhead breaks free of the guards. He grabs a sword from one of the men. The brother turns to Lily and asks if her beloved husband is dead, because she hasn't heard from him for a long time. Lily looks at her brother in shock. A counselor with a naked sword stands between the girl and her brother. Crocus warns that if he dies, Lily's youngest brother will suffer greatly, and it will be her fault. Lily orders the servant to put down the gun. The man says that it is dangerous, but she replies that she knows this and is confident in what she is doing. The Duchess takes out a pistol given to her by her husband. She points the weapon in the direction of her brother. He asks if she even knows what she is holding. The redhead shouts for the girl to make a shot. He has little faith in her. The girl did make a shot. She hit her brother's shoulder. He cannot believe it. He turns to his sister and asks her if she really doesn't see that she is being cheated on. The man offers to give up everything and return home to his father. The Duke returned. He took his wife's hand with the gun. The man was showing Lily how to aim correctly so that the shot would be successful and the bullet would reach its target. Crocus was afraid of the muzzle, which was looking straight at him. The guards took the Duchess's unarmed brother to a cell. He said that this was not the end, and that he would not be the only one to suffer. Threats continued to be made by Crocus, but no one paid attention to them. Lily was walking with Vlad down the dungeon corridor. She asked when her husband would return. The Duke learned from the guard that his wife had gone to the dungeon to interrogate the two men who had attacked her younger brother. Vlad asked his wife how she was feeling. Lily replied that she was fine. She was saved by a gift from her beloved husband. The Duke said he had hoped that it would never come to the use of this weapon. The woman hugged her husband. She told him that she hoped to learn how to manage the manor and lands of the duchy. But most of all, she suffered from the fact that she missed her beloved so much. This was the hardest thing to bear. The couple returned to the palace. There, they made love. Lily said that she had never felt good with a legitimate husband before. Vlad replied. He said that he had been taught that a woman cannot feel pleasure at all. They woke up early in the morning. Vlad found the letter that Lily had written to him at night. The Duke said that they were going to rest today. He had already ordered the footman to prepare breakfast for two. The couple enjoyed themselves. The redhead was lying on prison medication. He was thinking how good it would be to harm both the Duke and his wife. Crocus could not return to his father empty-handed, so he thought of a plan of revenge. Crocus was distracted from his thoughts by the man who was in prison with him. The man was constantly shouting about demons and was clearly out of it. He asked the redhead why he was in prison. Crocus replied that he had tried to kill the Duke and his wife. The man quickly calmed down. He said that the redhead would definitely not be able to do without his help, and he handed over a bottle of holy water. Vlad watched his soldiers practice. Lily came to the training ground. She said she wanted to learn how to use a gun. The Duke objected, saying that he hoped she would never have to use it. The soldiers looked at the couple and could not believe what they were seeing. Everyone was whispering because they had never seen the Duke like this before. He was usually quite different. The girl changed the nobleman's behavior and temper. Lily and Vlad walked around the yard. They talked about the girl's courage. She had dared to stand up to the trade guild and the Isles family. Lily said that she needed to break her father so she would lead the guild. Crocus escaped from his cell. He was determined to kill Vlad. He was thinking about how he could get a meeting with the top brass. To do this, he wanted to take one of the Duke's subjects hostage. One of the Duke's advisors came to the prison. He was looking for Vlad. Because of his poor eyesight, he did not immediately notice the enemy walking down the corridor. Sir Talon came to the counselor's aid. He sent someone close to the Duke to report the incident. The knight himself stayed in the dungeon to monitor the situation and react quickly. Vlad was working out on the training ground. An advisor ran up to him and told him that a man had escaped from his prison cell. The man was clearly going to do harm to the Duke and his wife. He also had a strange object. Vlad decided to deal with the enemy on his own. He ordered his wife not to say anything, as she was involved in the guild's affairs. Besides, Crocus was no longer his friend or guest, so he had the right to do as he saw fit. Vlad met Sir Talon in the dungeon. He brought a redhead. He took the vial of holy water from Crocus. Lily's brother promised the Duke a fortune in exchange for his sister's return to her parents' house. Crocus said that the Duke would be able to find a new wife. The world did not end with Lily alone. The angry man approached the redhead. The latter pulled out another vial of holy ode and smashed it against Vlad's shoulder. The Duke began to undergo a transformation. His skin changed and became covered with scales. He controlled the metamorphosis because at that very moment, his beloved was coming down to the basement. He did not want to scare the girl. Talon did not allow the woman to approach the Duke, who was on his knees. He was still trying to control the transformation so as not to frighten his wife. Lily did not understand why she was not allowed to see her husband and help him. Finally, the Duchess was released by Talon. She ran up to her lover and asked him not to hide anything from her. Crocus stood in front of the couple and did not understand what he had done wrong. why the monster was still alive, what his mistake was. Shocked by everything that was happening around him, Crocus said that the girl could die at any moment if the Duke moved his hand. Lily sarcastically said that the same was true of her brother. The redhead shouted that his father would not let it go. The girl agreed. She promised that her father would go down into this dungeon too. Crocus would be the bait for the head of the Isles family. Lily was bandaging her husband's wound. The girl is surprised because there is not even a scar on the Duke's body after being wounded. Vlad is glad that the woman did not see him in the body of a monster. This power came from his mother. The girl offered to remove the bandages because Vlad is capable of regeneration. He refused, saying it still hurt. He also really likes it when his wife takes care of him and is not afraid of him, a cursed half-demon. The Duke tells of meeting a very beautiful girl who gave him, a monster rejected by the whole world, a beautiful smile. He recalled a girl who was not afraid of him, but rather defended him in front of her peers. Her gentle and beautiful appearance hid a steadfast and determined character. Her soul impressed Vlad with its depth and strength of spirit. The Duke said that he was weak before her and Lily's smile. A few days later, a group of people who were prisoners sentenced to death by the court were marched through the streets of Cardus. Crocus was among the criminals. People around them were screaming. The three young men were looking at a member of the Ailes family. They were thinking of a plan to save the scion of the noble family. However, they did not decide anything, because they themselves were on the territory illegally. The boy suggested that they inform the head of the guild about the punishment that Mr. Crocus would soon face. They decided to inform his wife as well. Sir Talon was standing around the corner listening to their conversation. It was part of a grand plan, and the noble knight, loyal to Vlad, hoped that the enemy would take the bait. The trade guild must react to such a blow to its honor. Vlad and Lily were sitting outdoors. The girl said that she had heard rumors about the arrival of guild representatives in the city. She thought that her father would be among them, so she had to stall for time and then claim her rights. The girl said that she had heard from the servants that Vlad liked to walk in this forest when he was feeling down. The man replied that it was in this forest that he had met the girl as a child. Lily was very concerned about the Duke's first love. Lily blindfolded Vlad with a ribbon. Now it was her turn. The girl asked not to think about the Duke's first love anymore. Now all thoughts in this forest should be connected with her. The girl caressed and touched Vlad. Lily's younger brother came to visit her in her room. He thanked his sister for her help and said that now they should expect a visit from their father, because after Krokosov's arrest, he had no one left to pass the case on to. The angry head of the Ailes family was pacing the room, thinking about the future of the company. Antonio, the youngest of his children, came into the room. The boy asked when his brother Dandelion would return. The father leaned down to the boy. He said that in the future Antonio was going to marry a noble lady, so he had to forget about childish antics and get his head on straight and do serious business. The boy asked if their family business would go bankrupt because sales were declining. The boy heard this from officials who were visiting their home. The father assured him that everything would be fine. The father sent his son to his room. Finally, Antonio asked how his sister Lily was doing. The old man replied that she was doing well, because now she was a duchess and would help them with their business. A servant approached the head of the Isles family. We said that rumors had already spread among the nobles and the top of the kingdom, that the Duke de Winter had extorted money and jewelry from his subjects and neighbors. The prince himself would know about it. Now the prince, who already disliked the Duke, would definitely want to overthrow him and deprive him of his possessions. At the same time, a letter arrived from agents in Arcadia. The letter spoke of the death penalty to which Crocus had been sentenced. The old man immediately orders people to gather and go to Arcadia. The head of the family will personally lead the trip. He raises all the money he can, because it is necessary to bring Crocus back and put him in charge of the guild. The girl was looking for Vlad all over the palace. The servants said that they had not seen their master for a long time, but it looked suspicious. A strange sound was heard in one of the rooms. The maids did not let Lily in. The Duchess entered the room despite the efforts of the servants. There she saw a baby held in Vlad's arms. The child looked very much like the Duke. The girl was confused and did not know what to do. Vlad ordered the woman out of the room. The guards explained that the Duke had forbidden anyone to enter the room except the chaplain. Lily did not understand why her husband was behaving so strangely, and whose child he was holding in his arms. A servant girl tries to calm Lily down. She says that the Duke loves his wife very much, but the Duchess says that she cannot understand many things in her heart. She is going to return to the castle. Lily did not know what she should do. She thought that she knew her husband very well, because of all the secrets they knew about each other and the secret corners of their souls they had opened to each other. Sir Talon met Lily at the palace. He asked why the Duchess was sad. The girl replied that nothing terrible had happened. However, she had a lot of sad thoughts in her head that did not let her rest. The Duchess said that over time, people return to their old way of life, and if a person has suffered all their previous life, Now they will also find a way to new suffering. She had more memories of bad things. Talon said that the division into optimists and pessimists is conditional. Therefore, the main thing is to keep moving forward, not to give up and gain new experience and knowledge. Life is really beautiful and worth living. The servant informs him that the city is preparing for the arrival of the head of the Merchants Guild. Counselor Hans is very pleased with how his network of agents worked, and he has perfectly executed the Duke's orders to ensure a smooth transition. Lily was waiting for her husband in the administrative center of the duchy. She was checking the documents. They were related to the financial situation of the guild. The guild's situation was close to critical. She was looking for a solution. Vlad entered the room. He stood at a distance. Lily demanded an explanation. She wouldn't let him come any closer because they were already estranged. She wanted to know whose child Vlad was holding. The Duke explained that he was the child of a princess. When she found out about her son's leg defect, she abandoned him and left him. Vlad took in the baby, and now the High Priest of Nerva takes care of him. Vlad continued to talk about the princess, who was perverted, just like the Duke's father. The child's father could not be found. Lily understood that the Duke had no other choice. He had to save the child from death. The Duke and his wife decided to make love. However, the girl tried to talk about children and why Vlad avoids talking about them. Lily said she wanted a child with the man she loved. When she said that their child would be like them and they would love him, the Duke looked away and said that it would be very difficult to do. The man explained that there was a possibility of conceiving a demon half, and it would be difficult to love him. Vlad explained that there is also a huge risk of the mother dying during childbirth, and he does not want to risk the life of his beloved woman, who is the only one who brings joy to his life. The next day, an entourage with the head of the guild arrived at the gates of Cardis. The aristocrat wanted to bypass the queue and enter the city, but he was stopped by the guards. The man offered a bribe for entering the city out of turn. The guard said that anyone who tried to bribe him for a queue-free pass would be kicked to the end of the queue. The man ordered the offender to the very end of the queue. A commotion ensued. The furious head of the Ailes family decided to intervene. His servant reported the reasons for the conflict. The guard said that no exceptions were made for anyone, not even the Duchess's relatives. The old man agreed with the knight. He said that since they were on the territory of Arcadia, they had to act in accordance with the laws of the area. Instead, the father of the family suggested that they arrange a competition between the gate guards and his mercenaries. The aristocrat said that the winner would receive 100 zlotys, and those who placed bets and their challenger won would get twice as much. People started placing bets, interested in winning money for nothing. The old man bowed to the chief guard. He said that the knight had a sick child, and the guild could help with the treatment with very rare and expensive medicines needed to fight the disease. The old man and his servant looked at the crowd, which was frantic for an easy way to get rich. My father was about to go into town when a guard stopped him. He demanded that he hand over the medicine since he had allowed him to pass. Mr. Isles thought that the first thing to do was to talk to the Duke, and then, in case of failure, to get the sold daughter back. He was sure that the girl would leave the marriage in the past. The Duke and his wife were expecting a visit from the head of the guild. Vlad reassured his wife, telling her that there was no reason to be afraid of her father or feel inferior in his presence. The head of the Ailes family entered the room. He greeted the Duke de Winter and his wife. His father's voice made him sad. Vlad calmed his wife down, noticing that she was getting nervous. The girl asked what had brought her father to her new property. He replied that he had not thought of the visit as something that would cause inconvenience. After all, he had written to his daughter before and warned her of his intentions to visit the child. The Duke could not resist saying that Ailes had a good tongue and could speak intelligently and mysteriously, and the old man could not hide the real reasons for his visit. The head of the family asked him to return his son. The girl thought that her father measured everything with money, and without money he was not capable of anything. This was his insignificance. The Duke inquired about the affairs of the trade guild and warned that the young man's life would be worth more than 100 coins. Isaac said that she should sit quietly, because she had no right to interfere with the conversation between the two men. Lily did not agree with this. She handed over a piece of paper. On it was written a contract for the transfer of management. She warned. She warned that if he refused, the guild would lose all ties with the mineral traders. At the same time, Crocus would sit and rot in the manor's prison for the rest of his life. The father is impressed with his daughter's negotiating skills. He asked where she had learnt it. Lily replied that life itself and her father had taught her to behave this way. Before she married the Duke, she had known nothing but suffering. Old Mr. Isles tried to manipulate the fact that the contract was not notarized. Besides, he came from an imperial family, so the Duke had no right to interfere in his affairs. Vlad replied that he would personally inform the Emperor and his court about the dark deeds and the true state of affairs in the trade guild. In addition, the old man should be concerned about the life and health of Crocus. Deception of the imperial family was considered a serious crime, which was followed by severe and inexorable punishment. The predecessor of the current emperor ordered the start of the attacker who tried to deceive him. Vlad said that he did not expect any material benefits or additional ties to the ruling house because of his marriage to Lily. He is happy with the fact that she has become his legal wife. And Ailes has no choice but to sign the contract and save his son's life and his own. Otherwise, the man will be thrown into the basement with other thieves and criminals. Lily announced her intention to take Antonio away. This was the last time the girl spoke to her father. She warned him not to see her again. And he didn't even think about revenge because Vlad is scary and dangerous in anger. And the daughter will skillfully take over all the work.